Okay, so this we're switching now to this idea of what makes a good ethical theory, and this is a this may be a different way of thinking about stuff, but this is very helpful. And so, um, if it's hard, just read the chapter again, this portion, listen to my explanation again. If that is hard, send me an email. Maybe we can Skype or something. Okay. So what we want in a good theory, because there are bad theories and good theories, right? I mean, if I made up a theory like, why do things fall? Because invisible leprechauns latch onto things and they fall. That's why. Because the weight of, that's not a good theory why things fall. If you want a good theory, it has to have at least four good components. Okay, there are more, but for now, one is that completeness. Does it include all meaningful moral claims? So if a theory excludes something, that's very important. That means that theory is missing something and it's not complete. So remember, ethical subjectivism is the view that whatever is right depends on the subject. So if I'm the subject, Joe, then if I think that murder is okay, then committing murder would be okay for me. But if you thought it was wrong, it'd be wrong for you, right? But notice the problem with ethical subjectivism is it can't explain the concept of fairness or equality. Let's say you're waiting in line and you say, and then, I cut in line in front of you and say, hey, that's not fair. And I say, what do you mean? According to me, that is fair. And you say, according to me, that's not fair. But that would be unfair, right? So ethical subjectivism is a theory that lacks the concept of equality or fairness, so that theory is not very good. So completeness is one area that you want to think about because we're going to start thinking about ethical theories in the coming weeks. Explanatory power, and this is an easier concept than it sounds. So does a theory give us any insight into what makes something moral or immoral? So let me explain the idea of explanatory power. Look at these four circles, right? Now here's one theory. All the balls are blue, right? Now that theory is it does have some explanatory power. The power to explain three balls, but it fails to explain this ball, right? So it's also not complete, right? It also lacks power. Now here's another theory. All the balls are circular and colored. Notice this one has a bit more. It explains it all, plus it's complete. Now, is it completely full? No, it doesn't answer the blue part, right? And the red part. So some theories, so I want to kind of give you a hint that all theories are going to be good at explaining some things, but may need help in explaining other things, right? So explanatory power is an aspect. Completeness is an aspect. So what we want to do with explanatory power is it informs us why something is right or wrong. It just doesn't state, well, that's right. Not like a moral code or the 10 Commandments or something like that. Okay, practicability. Try to say that quickly 10 times. Okay, is it practical, right? So is it useful in actual practice? Does a theory generate clear and precise claims? So this, if you say, well, help people when it feels right. Okay. Now, what do you mean by feeling right? See, notice that doesn't help me, right? Because I don't know what feels right to you, right? I know what feels right to me, but what does feeling right mean? So it's not precise, it's vague. Can it be applied by ordinary people? That is, do you need a PhD to be able to do it? Or could it be something like, no one should spend money on the lottery if they are not going to win, right? So that applies to everyone, not just a specific group of people, right? Okay. The theory should not lead you to further conflicting results. So, that is, it should be consistent, right? So, for example, in situation or instance X, do Y, but in another situation, instance of X, do not Y. So, example, when you're getting a D in a math class, you ought to cheat. When you're getting a D in a philosophy class, you ought not to cheat. Well, that's not consistent, right? So these are conflicting results. So it should be practical, and in its practicality be consistent. It can be applied by ordinary people, and it should be clear and precise, not vague. The last is moral confirmation. So moral theory gives you the correct answers to our moral questions. So we know that stealing is wrong in most cases. So if a theory says that stealing is morally right all the time, then there's something wrong or problematic with a theory, right? Now, some people are so willing to just bite the bullet and say, no, but this other part of my theory is correct. Well, I guess people can do that, and when the rubber meets the road with a theory, people do that, and as we'll see in the weeks ahead. However, think about this as a key feature in what makes a good ethical theory. Now, a caveat or 4 kind of points. That is, all philosophers will try to find weak spots and modify theories. So every ethical theory that we're going to talk about has its problems. Some have more than others, right? So a clue about the theories, they're not perfect, and they can get better, and that's what philosophers try to do. And don't miss a theory because it has a problem or two. Now, if the problems are really, really big, like the one that we'll talk about next week, ethical egoism, then you probably should reject it, or cultural relativism. You should probably reject it because that's not problems are too big. Now, if it has too many problems, right, like cultural, then reject it and explore another theory. So these are just some suggestions I have in my kind of years of thinking about this kind of stuff. Hope it helps, and I hope you enjoy this kind of difficult, kind of abstract chapter, but this will give you foundational information for the rest of our semester. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I'll see you online. Bye.